My name is Fonda Marshall. I'm 29 years old, and on my wedding day, I found my dad standing in a hallway with no seat while 9 people from my husband's family sat at the table that was supposed to be his. Table 1, front and center. That's where my parents belonged. Instead, someone moved them to table 14, the last table in the room, wedged between the kitchen door and a trash can. And when I asked my husband-to-be why, I heard him say something about my father that cracked open every lie I'd been telling myself for 2 years. I stood in that hallway in my wedding dress, 200 guests waiting on the other side of the wall, and I made a decision I cannot take back and wouldn't if I could. I grew up in Millfield, Ohio, population 8,000. My father, Dave Marshall, fixed pipes for 35 years. His knees went bad, his back gave out, but I never saw him miss a day. My mom, Linda, served lunch to 400 kids a day at Millfield Elementary. She knew every child by name, who was allergic to what, who came to school hungry. Those kids always got extra helpings. We weren't wealthy. I shared a bedroom wall with the water heater. But the door was always open, dinner was always hot, and my parents never made me feel like I was missing anything. I became a nurse practitioner, paid off my debts by 28. I built that life with my own hands, but the foundation was Dave and Linda Marshall. I met Garrett Whitfield 2 years before the wedding. The Whitfields were real estate developers, 3 generations deep. Their name was on a subdivision, a commercial plaza, a bronze plaque at the country club. The first time I met Constance, Garrett's mother, she wore cream silk and pearl earrings. She shook my hand and said, "A community clinic? How interesting." Garrett used to date the Harrison girl. I told myself that's just how people talk in those circles. Garrett squeezed my hand. She'll warm up. She never did. But I was already in love. And love has a way of making you explain away the things you should be running from. Garrett proposed at a restaurant his family owned. Constance was sitting 3 tables away. Coincidence, he called it. I said yes anyway, because the ring wasn't from Constance. It was from the man who drove 40 minutes to bring me soup when I had the flu, who said my parents were good people and he couldn't wait to call Dave Dad. Then the wedding planning started, and the version of Garrett I thought I knew began to blur. Constance chose the venue, the Whitfield Country Club. She chose the planner, the menu. When my mom suggested adding her fried chicken, Constance said, "That's sweet, Linda, but this is a seated dinner, not a potluck." My mother laughed it off. I saw her hands tighten. Every time I pushed back, Garrett said, "Let Mom have this one, babe. After the wedding, it's just us." I made a calculated decision, lose the small battles now, win the war later. But the small battles weren't small. They were rehearsals. Constance was testing how far she could push, and I kept giving ground. June 14th, 6 a.m. I woke up in my old bedroom. The dress hung on the door, ivory satin, tea-length, bought with my own savings. Constance had suggested a designer gown. I declined. This was the one thing I kept. By 10 o'clock, I was at the Whitfield Country Club. $85,000 worth of venue, decor, and catering, mostly covered by the Whitfields. The place looked like a magazine spread. 200 guests, half Whitfield side, half mine. I noticed the imbalance early. Their guests filled the front rows. My people were scattered toward the edges. My maid of honor, Margot, whispered, "Why are your aunt's people all the way in the back?" I waved it off. After the ceremony, I slipped into the reception hall to check the setup. Table 1, the head table, was set for 10. I picked up the first place card, Gerald Whitfield. Next, Lydia Whitfield, Thomas Whitfield, Mr. and Mrs. Porter, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, 9 Whitfields and Associates. No Marshalls. My chest tightened. I checked table after table. I found them at table 14, the last table, tucked against the far wall next to the swinging kitchen door. Putts clanged. The chairs were padded folding chairs, not the polished mahogany. A service cart with dirty glasses sat 2 feet away. The overhead light was dimmer, a utility fixture, not a chandelier. Dave Marshall. Linda Marshall. I stared at those 2 place cards sitting next to a trash can. I found the coordinator, Diane. Who changed the seating chart? Mrs. Whitfield adjusted it this morning. She said the bride approved. I never approved anything. I stood there and did what I'd trained to do in the ER, triage. If I said nothing, my parents would sit there. They wouldn't complain. My dad would straighten his tie, the one he bought in 2009, the only good one he owned, and say, "It's fine, sweetheart." My mom would fold her napkin and pretend she couldn't hear the dishwashers. And Constance would know she could move them anywhere. The back of the room, the parking lot, out of the frame entirely. I thought about my dad's hands, 35 years of copper pipe. He saved 6 months for that suit. My mom had sewn her dress herself, altered an old one, added lace. I'd watched her work on it for 3 weekends. These people fed me, raised me, and someone decided they belonged next to a trash can. I went to find Garrett. I thought he'd fix it. I found him adjusting his cufflinks, silver, monogrammed, a gift from Constance. Who moved my parents off the head table? He didn't look up. Mom rearranged some things. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? Table 14 is next to the kitchen, next to the trash. He sighed. Fonda, we have 200 guests. Can we not do this right now? When then? After dinner. He turned, calm, patient. Mom has her reasons. The Hendersons and Porters are important. More important than my parents? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He stepped toward me. Baby, you're stressed. Let's get through dinner and I'll talk to Mom tomorrow. Tomorrow. That was always the answer. Tomorrow never came. I searched his face. No surprise, no outrage. He'd known since morning. He knew, and he'd gotten dressed, fixed his cufflinks, checked his hair. I walked out. I still had one more door to open. At the welcome table, I picked up a program. Page 2, with love and gratitude to our families. A list. Richard and Constance Whitfield, Gerald and Lydia Whitfield, Thomas Whitfield, the Whitfield Family Foundation, 4 lines, all Whitfield. I flipped it over. Dave and Linda Marshall were nowhere. In the original I'd approved, my parents were listed first, with deepest love to Dave and Linda Marshall, whose sacrifices made all of this possible. Constance had waited until the morning of the wedding and had Diane reprint them. My parents' names erased. Not just from the table, from the record. I found Margot. One look at my face and she said, "What happened?" I told her. She didn't flinch. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know yet." "Okay. What do you need from me?" "Stay close." I walked back toward the groomsmen's suite. The door was cracked open. Enough to hear. Constance's voice, low, controlled. "Garrett, look at her father. That suit is from 2005. And her mother? Did she sew that dress herself? They look poor. You cannot have them at the front table. Our guests will think." "I know, Mom. The Hendersons are sitting right there. These are the people who matter. Not a plumber and a lunch lady." "You're right. The Marshalls are fine in the back. It's more appropriate." A pause. Then Constance, quieter. "You should have listened to me from the start. She doesn't belong here." I pressed my hand against the wall. My father, the man who spent 35 years on his knees under kitchen sinks, who drove 4 hours round trip every weekend to visit me in college, a plumber and a lunch lady. And the man I was supposed to spend my life with said, "You're right. There are sentences you can unhear." This wasn't one of them. I pushed the door open. Constance turned. "Fonda, sweetheart, you look stunning." I heard everything. Garrett's jaw tightened. "Heard what?" "We were just, Dad looks poor. Mom sewed her dress. They don't belong at the front table." What part did I misunderstand? Constance stepped forward. "Fonda, this is just a seating arrangement. You called my father a plumber like it was an insult. You called my mother a lunch lady like she should be ashamed. I didn't mean." I looked at Garrett. "And you said they were fine in the back." Garrett's voice dropped. "You're emotional. It's your wedding day. Let's take a breath." "I am breathing, Garrett. I've never been more clear." Constance glanced at her son. Garrett tried again. "Baby, come on. Let's not ruin—" "I'm not ruining anything. You already did." I turned and walked out. His footsteps didn't follow. He didn't come after me. That was the last answer I needed. I found Margot. I'm thinking I can't sign my name to this. She nodded. The marriage license, you haven't signed it yet. Diane has it. The plan was to sign after dinner. So legally, you're not married. The ceremony was symbolic until that paper is signed. No signature, no marriage, no annulment needed. How long do I have? As long as you don't sign. But once you walk in there, the pressure will be enormous. Whatever you're going to do, decide before you sit down. She put her hand on my arm. I'm your lawyer and your best friend tonight. Whatever you choose, I'm standing next to you. I found my parents at table 14. Dad sat upright, hands flat on his knees. His suit jacket buttoned. Mom smoothed a crease in her dress. A server pushed through the kitchen door behind them. It banged, letting out heat and clatter. Mom flinched. Dad didn't move. Hey, sweetheart. Dad smiled. You look beautiful. Dad, I'm so sorry, don't. He held up a hand. I can sit anywhere, baby girl. This is your day. It's our family's day. He looked at me with understanding. I thought about the $12,000 my parents had saved over 15 years. It covered the catering deposit. Without it, there was no dinner. And Constance had put the people who paid for the food next to the trash. Stay here, I said. Both of you. I'll be right back. The reception doors opened. Guests filed in. The MC announced, the Whitfield family. 9 people stood. Constance beamed. Applause. No mention of the marshals. Not a word. Nurse Patricia came to me. Why are your parents sitting next to the service entrance? That man rebuilt my plumbing for half price. He wouldn't even take a tip. So why is he next to a trash can? People were noticing. Constance walked past table 14 with her friend Vivian. My mother was adjusting lace on her sleeve. The stitching had come loose. Constance stopped. Bless her heart. Someone should have bought her a proper dress. She sipped champagne. But I suppose you have to know your place. My mother's hands went still. Her eyes dropped. Dad reached under the tablecloth and took her hand. He didn't say anything. He just held it. Watching my father absorb that contempt while holding my mother's hand next to a trash can, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. I saw him ashamed. Not of himself. Of the situation. Of being put somewhere he didn't deserve and not being able to fix it. I was done. Completely done. I grabbed Garrett's arm, pulled him behind a column. Your mother just humiliated mine. What did she say? Know your place. Someone should have bought her a proper dress. Fonda, Mom says things she doesn't mean. She means every syllable. Go tell her to apologize. I'm not making a scene. 200 people are watching. Then whisper. Just do it. He straightened his jacket. Your parents will be fine. They're tough. Let's just get through tonight. He turned and walked back to table 1. Garrett chose. He chose the table. He chose his mother. Now it was my turn. I went straight to table 14 and sat down. Between my parents. Mom looked confused. Honey, you should be up front. My family's here, so I'm here. Dad studied my face. Don't do anything on our account. I'm not doing this for you, Dad. I'm doing this for me. I met Margot's eyes across the room and nodded. She nodded back. I stood. The walk from table 14 to the stage was 60 feet. My heels clicked on the hardwood. Conversations faded. By the time I reached the stage, the room was almost silent. I took the microphone. Thank you all for being here today. I know you came to celebrate a wedding and I owe you the truth. The room went still. Most of you know me as Garrett's fiancé, but before that and after tonight, I am Dave and Linda Marshall's daughter. I pointed to the back. My parents are sitting at table 14. I'd like everyone to look at table 14 for a moment. 200 pairs of eyes turned. They found Dave and Linda Marshall at a folding table between a service cart and a trash bin. Confusion, then recognition, then tightening faces. Jim Henderson put down his fork. At table 1, Constance's smile hardened. 12 hours ago, my parents were seated at table 1, where the families of the bride and groom belong. This morning, that changed. Someone replaced every place card at the head table. My parents were removed and reassigned to the last seat in the house, next to the kitchen, next to the trash. That person was Constance Whitfield. Every head at table 1 turned to her. Constance's face went white. When I confronted my fiancé, he told me not to make a scene. And when I heard him speak to his mother privately, he said, and these are his exact words, "The Marshalls are fine in the back. The Hendersons and Porters are more important." Jim Henderson pushed back from the table. His wife stared at Garrett. Garrett stood. "Fonda, you're twisting." "Sit down, Garrett. You had your chance. You chose not to stand up for my family." He sank back, Constance pulling his sleeve. "Let me tell you about the people moved to table 14. My father, Dave Marshall, fixed pipes for 35 years. He has 2 bad knees and 1 good suit, which he saved 6 months for. My mother, Linda Marshall, serves lunch to 400 kids every day. She knows every child by name. My parents put $12,000 toward this wedding. That money covered the catering deposit. Every plate you're eating tonight, my parents paid for it. And you put them next to the garbage." Gasps. Vivian moved away from Constance. From the back, people stood, Nurse Patricia and Grace. Witnesses. "I came here today to start a marriage built on mutual respect. But I cannot sign my name to a marriage where my family is treated as an embarrassment. I will not raise children who learn that love means hiding where you come from." I unpinned my veil, folded it, set it on the stage. "To the guests from Millfield, thank you. We're going home." I looked at Constance. "To the Whitfields, I wish you well. But I deserve better than a man who sits in silence while his mother calls my father poor. And my parents deserve better than table 14. I set the microphone down gently. Stepped off the stage. My heels clicked again. 60 feet back. Nobody talked over it. Dad stood. Mom cried quiet tears. I hugged them both. Margot appeared with my coat. We walked out, past 200 silent faces. Behind us, Constance's voice. She's lost her mind. Garrett calling, "Fonda, wait." I didn't wait. That night, I sat at my parents' kitchen table. Margot called. The marriage license wasn't signed. Legally, I was never married. No annulment, no divorce. I walked away clean. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I told Garrett by email, "I'm pregnant. I'm keeping the baby." All communication goes through legal counsel. His responses ranged from pleading to threatening. Constance called the house line. Dad answered. "My daughter has a lawyer. Talk to her, not to me." He hung up. The fallout was quiet but devastating for the Whitfields. Jim Henderson pulled out of a $300,000 development project. The Hope Foundation asked Constance to step back from chairing their gala. I didn't orchestrate any of this. 200 people had seen what happened, and they talked. A month later, Garrett came to the house. Dad met him at the door. "I should have stood up for your family." Dad said, "My daughter made herself clear. If you want to be part of this child's life, Hannah Wells has the paperwork." Garrett left. Elise Marie Marshall was born on a Tuesday morning, 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Dad held her first. His rough hands cradled her like blown glass. Mom took 47 photos. A letter came from Richard Whitfield. "I owe you an apology for my silence. I don't expect forgiveness. If you'd ever allow it, I'd be grateful for access to my granddaughter." I folded it and put it away. I didn't reply. 1 year later, Elise is 13 months old. I'm a shift lead at the clinic. The custody arrangement gives Garrett 2 weekends a month. Constance is not part of it. I set a boundary. Any visit with extended family requires my or my parents' supervision. She won't meet it. Sunday dinner at the Marshall house, 6 o'clock. The same Formica table, 6 mismatched chairs. Mom's fried chicken, mashed potatoes, corn on the cob. Elise in Dad's lap, grabbing his glasses. No champagne, no crystal, no $85,000 venue. But every person at this table chose to be here. Every person belongs. Nobody is sitting next to the trash. This is my table 1. I'm not telling you this to teach a lesson. But if you're sitting at your own table 14 right now, know this, you can stand up. You don't need a microphone or 200 witnesses. You just need to know that the people you love deserve better. And if the person you chose agrees when someone calls your family poor, they didn't choose you. They chose convenience. That's not love. That's a seating chart. My name is Fonda Marshall. I'm 30 now. A nurse, a mother, and Dave and Linda Marshall's daughter. My daughter has never sat at a table where she didn't belong. And I have never been prouder of where I come from.